You know the TV shows. We've all seen them. Someone buys a fixer-upper, knocks down a few walls, and poof! In the time it takes to watch a few commercials, they've got a dream home and magically added six figures to its value. But let's talk about the huge and often really costly gap between that fantasy and what happens in the real world. And that's the hook, right? That's what pulls you in. This idea that with just a little bit of sweat equity, a huge home transformation is not only simple, but it's a brilliant financial move. It's an incredibly powerful and, let's be honest, very appealing idea. That's right. The biggest costs are actually hidden. They're tucked away in your schedule, in your stress levels, and in the cold, hard truths of the market itself. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the drywall and expose the financial traps and the psychological pitfalls that can turn that dream into a total nightmare. All right, let's start with the biggest lure of them all, the promise of massive savings if you just do it yourself. This is, without a doubt, the #1 reason people get excited and pick up that sledgehammer in the first place. You know, at first glance, the math seems so simple. A professional quotes you $15,000 for a bathroom remodel. You go online and see the materials for just $4,000. That's an $11,000 savings. It feels like an absolute no-brainer. But is that number real, or is it kind of like a carefully constructed illusion? Well, the truth is, that initial material estimate is a total fantasy. It doesn't account for the specialized tools you're going to need to rent or buy for one job. It completely forgets about the dumpster you'll need, the city permits, and it definitely doesn't factor in the cost of fixing your own inevitable mistakes. We've all been there. And this brings us to a really crucial economic concept that unfortunately many first-time DIYers learn the hard way. It's called the deferred cost. A deferred cost is pretty simple when you break it down. It's the money you think you're saving today that you're absolutely going to pay tomorrow, and often with a hefty premium attached. You know, you knock down a wall only to find out, oops, it was load-bearing. Or you try to rewire a light fixture and accidentally create a serious fire hazard. This is exactly how a $5,000 DIY project spirals into a $20,000 disaster that puts your life on hold for 3 months. So let's move on to the next myth, and you'll see how this all starts to build. This is the belief that creating a budget is as simple as adding up the things you want to buy. This quote just gets right to the heart of it. A shopping list is about what you want. A real budget, that's a plan for what the project will actually cost. And that includes all the stuff you don't see at first glance. So let's just imagine for a second, you're planning a kitchen renovation. You've looked at cabinets, countertops, all the shiny new appliances, and you've set what you think is a pretty responsible dream budget of $30,000. Feels solid, right? Okay, but here's the reality. You need to add permits. You've got to rent a dumpster. You might want to hire a designer to make sure the layout actually works. And oh yeah, for the 6 weeks your kitchen is completely out of commission, you're going to be eating out a lot more. All of a sudden, your $30,000 project is creeping up towards $38,000. And that's before the single most important line item, a contingency fund for all those inevitable surprises you're going to find behind the walls. A real budget for this project is over $41,000. This also touches on another really critical economic idea that gets overlooked all the time in the DIY world, the time value of money. See, we're all conditioned to think of our own labor as free, but it's not at all. Think about it. You spend 200 hours of your nights and weekends to save $5,000 on labor costs. But what could you have done with those 200 hours? If you have a side hustle that earns you $50 an hour, well, that time was worth $10,000. You didn't just break even, you actually lost $5,000 on the deal. All right, so it's expensive, it's time-consuming, but hey, it's an investment, right? You'll get it all back when you sell, and then some. Well, this brings us to the myth of the guaranteed return on investment, or what I like to call the ROI mirage. The fact is, not all renovations are created equal. I mean, just look at this chart. Some projects, like a new garage door, can actually return more than you spent. Wild, right? But a minor kitchen remodel, you might only get about 80 cents back on the dollar. And that luxury swimming pool you've been dreaming of, you'll be lucky to get back even half of what you paid for it. One of the biggest ROI killers is a trap called over-improving. This is what happens when you put a $90,000 kitchen into a neighborhood full of starter homes. You've just made your house the most expensive on the block, but buyers looking in that area have a ceiling on what they're willing to pay. You've essentially priced yourself right out of your own market. And then there's the fickle finger of market trends. Today's hot must-have feature is tomorrow's dated disaster. I mean, remember those heavy, dark Tuscan kitchens from the 2000s? People are now paying thousands of dollars just to rip them out. If your main goal is ROI, timelessness is always going to beat whatever's trendy right now. So, we've covered the financial myths, but this is where it gets really interesting because the biggest threat to your renovation budget might actually be your own brain. A renovation is like a perfect storm for all our behavioral biases to come out and play. First up is the sunk cost fallacy. So, you're $40,000 into a $30,000 project when a new $10,000 problem pops up. Your brain just screams, I've already spent so much, I have to finish it no matter what. And that is how you end up throwing good money after bad, instead of just pausing to find a smarter, maybe cheaper solution. Then you've got the classic keeping up with the Joneses effect. Your neighbor installs these gorgeous quartz countertops, and all of a sudden, your perfectly functional laminate countertops feel sad, inadequate. So you upgrade, not because you need to, but because of social pressure. And that, my friends, is an emotional decision, not a financial one. And then, perhaps the most dangerous of all is the illusion of control. This is the belief that you can somehow perfectly manage every single detail. But you don't control the supply chain, you don't control the city inspector schedule, and you definitely don't control the weather. Acknowledging what you can't control is the first step toward building a smarter plan that can actually survive contact with reality. So after hearing all that, you might be thinking, should I just never renovate? Of course not. You just need a better playbook. You need to renovate smart. Here it is. Step 1, strategic planning. This should be the longest part of your entire project. Get inspections to find the surprises early. Get multiple, highly detailed quotes. 2, professional collaboration. Know your limits. Please hire pros for critical jobs like plumbing and electrical. A good general contractor isn't a cost. They are a risk manager. And number 3, future-proofing. Think long-term. Focus on energy efficiency, low-maintenance materials, and adaptable spaces that are going to serve you for decades, not just for one Instagram post. Ultimately, a home renovation isn't just a construction project. It's a high-stakes financial decision. The unseen forces, your time, the market, your own psychology, they are often way more powerful than the price of lumber and paint. So before you even think about swinging that sledgehammer, ask yourself this one simple question. Answering it honestly, well, that's the key to building a home that is not just beautiful, but financially brilliant.